The classroom was quiet. 23 students sat in their seats and waited. They came from 12 different worlds. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had skin that changed color with their mood. But all of them watched the front of the room with curious eyes. Professor Velith walked to her teaching platform. She was tall and thin, with 4 arms and large black eyes. Her skin was pale blue, and she moved with the slow grace of her people. She had taught at the Galactic Linguistics Institute for 40 years. She had seen many students come and go. But today felt different. Today, she would teach them about something old and forgotten. "Good morning, class," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "Today we begin our study of dead languages." A student in the middle row raised his hand. His name was Tikis, and he was young and eager. His body was covered in hard plates, and his eyes sat on short stalks above his head. "Professor, what is a dead language?" he asked. Velith smiled. It was a good question. A dead language is a language that no one speaks anymore. The people who spoke it are gone. Their world is gone. Only their words remain, written in old books and carved on ancient stones. She touched a panel on her desk, and the air above it began to glow. Shapes appeared in the light. They were symbols, sharp and angular, unlike anything the students had seen before. "This," Velith said, "is called Terran Standard." It was the common language of a species called humans. They lived on a small blue world called Earth. The students leaned forward. They had heard of Earth. Everyone had heard of Earth. It was a sad story, one that parents told their children to teach them about loss. 4,000 years ago, Velith continued, Earth's sun began to die. It grew larger and hotter. The humans knew their world would be destroyed. They called out to the galaxy for help. She paused. The classroom was very quiet, but help did not come. The Galactic Council looked at the humans and saw a young species, a primitive species. They had only just learned to travel between stars. The council decided they were not worth saving. Tikis made a small sound of surprise. "They just let them die?" "Yes," Velith said. Her voice was heavy. "The sun swallowed Earth. The humans were gone. All that remains of them now are fragments, broken pieces of their ships, old recordings, and their language." She pointed at the symbols floating in the air. Terran Standard, a language full of strange ideas and stranger words. That is what we will study this term. In the back of the classroom, a student named Yuri sat very still. She looked like the others around her. She had modified her appearance over many generations to blend in. Her skin was a normal shade of gray. Her eyes were large and dark. She had 2 arms and 2 legs, just like most species in this part of the galaxy. But inside, Yuri was different. Her heart beat in a rhythm that was not quite right. Her blood was red, not blue or green. And deep in her memory, she held something that no one else in the room possessed. She remembered her grandmother's voice. Yuri's grandmother had been old and kind. She had lived in a small house on a quiet moon, far from the busy centers of the galaxy. Every night, she had sung songs to young Yuri, songs in a language that Yuri did not understand. Songs with words that rose and fell like water over stones. "What language is that, grandmother?" Yuri had asked once. Her grandmother had smiled and touched Yuri's face with gentle hands. "It is our secret language, little one. The language of our family. You must never speak it outside this house. You must never tell anyone you know it. Do you understand?" Yuri had promised. She had kept that promise for her whole life. But now, looking at the symbols on the professor's display, she felt something cold move through her chest. She recognized those shapes. Not all of them. Not perfectly. But enough. Enough to know that the sounds her grandmother had made matched the patterns on the screen. Enough to know that the secret language of her family was the same as this dead tongue from a destroyed world, but that was impossible. Earth had been gone for 4,000 years. Everyone who spoke its languages had died with it. How could Yuri's grandmother know those words? Professor Veleth was still talking. She pulled up more symbols and explained their meanings. The humans had a strange way of thinking, she said. Look at this phrase. The symbols changed. Yuri read them slowly, sounding out each one in her mind. The words came together. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Do you see? Veleth asked the class. They feared the idea of fear. They fought against their own emotions. Their language was full of such puzzles. They wrote about fighting for peace and dying to live. These seemed like opposites, but to the humans, they made perfect sense. Yuri's hands gripped the edge of her desk. She knew that phrase. Her grandmother had said it to her once, late at night, when Yuri had been scared of a storm outside. Do not be afraid of being afraid, her grandmother had whispered. Fear is just a feeling. It cannot hurt you unless you let it. The class ended. Students gathered their things and left. But Yuri stayed in her seat. Her mind was spinning. Her whole life, she had thought her family was simply strange. That they had odd traditions and secret songs that meant nothing. Now she knew the truth. Her family had been hiding something. Something big. Something that connected them to a world that had died before she was born. She had to find out more. She had to understand what her grandmother had known and why she had kept it secret. Yuri stood up and walked out of the classroom. The hallway was busy with students moving between classes. None of them looked at her. None of them knew that she was different, but she knew. And tonight she would begin to search for answers. The dead language was not as dead as everyone believed. Yuri was living proof of that. And she had a feeling that she was not alone. That night, Yuri could not sleep. She lay in her small room and stared at the ceiling. The words from class kept moving through her mind. Terran Standard. Dead language. Destroyed world. But her grandmother had spoken those words. Her grandmother had sung those songs. How was that possible? Yuri got out of bed and walked to her computer terminal. The screen glowed soft blue in the dark room. She sat down and began to type first. She searched for information about Earth. The results were the same as what Professor Veleth had told the class. Earth was destroyed 4,000 years ago. The sun expanded. The planet burned. All humans died. End of story. But Yuri did not believe it. Not anymore. She tried a different search. She looked for records of human survivors. She looked for stories of escape ships. She looked for anything that suggested even one human had lived through the disaster. Nothing. Every search came back empty. The official records were clear. Humanity was extinct. Yuri leaned back in her chair and thought, if there were survivors, they would not want to be found. They would hide. They would keep their existence secret. That meant any evidence would be hidden too. She needed to look in places that normal people could not access. Yuri was a good student. She had high marks and a clean record. But she also had skills that she had never told anyone about. Her grandmother had taught her more than songs. She had taught her how to move through computer systems without being seen, how to find doors that others could not open. Information wants to be free, her grandmother had said. But sometimes you have to help it escape. Yuri began to work. She moved carefully through the Institute's network, looking for ways into the restricted archives. These were the files that only senior professors and government officials could access. Files about ancient history. Files about extinct species. Files that might contain the truth. After 2 hours, she found a small crack in the security wall. It was almost like someone had left it there on purpose. like they wanted certain people to find it. Yuri slipped through. The restricted archive was huge. Millions of files stretched out before her, organized by date and topic. She searched for Earth. She searched for humans. She searched for anything that did not match the official story dot, and then she found it. The file was old. Very old. It had been buried deep in the archive, hidden under layers of security codes. The title was simple: Project Diaspora. Yuri opened it and began to read. Her heart stopped. The file was a report from 4,000 years ago. It was written by a human named Park Jisu, and it described a plan. A desperate, impossible plan to save the human race. We have received no response from the Galactic Council. The report began. They have decided that we are not worth saving. They will let us die. But we will not accept this fate. If the galaxy will not help us, we will help ourselves. The plan was called the Diaspora Initiative. The humans had built thousands of small ships. Each ship carried only a few hundred people. They were too small to be noticed, too quiet to be tracked, and they were sent in every direction, spreading out across the entire galaxy like seeds in the wind. We will not stay together, the report continued. We will scatter. We will hide. We will change our names and change our faces. We will learn the languages of other species and forget our own, except in secret. And we will survive, no matter what it takes, no matter how long we must wait. Yuri kept reading. The plan had worked. The ships had escaped before Earth was destroyed. They had found quiet places on distant worlds. The humans had hidden among other species, slowly changing their appearance over many generations to blend in. They called themselves the Hidden Ones. The file contained lists of names and places. Yuri saw that the Hidden Ones had spread everywhere. They lived on rich worlds and poor worlds. They worked as farmers and teachers and engineers. Some had even become government officials, and they had kept their languages alive. Each family passed down their ancestral tongue in secret. Korean, Spanish, Arabic, English, Japanese, Hindi, and hundreds more. The languages were taught to children in whispers and songs. They were written in private journals and hidden books. 4,000 years of secrets. 4,000 years of hiding. 4,000 years of waiting. But waiting for what? Yuri found another file attached to the first. This one was much newer. It was dated just 10 years ago. The time is coming, the file said. Our people have watched the galaxy change. We have contributed to its growth. We have helped build its ships and heal its sick and feed its hungry. We have earned our place among the stars. Soon, we will step out of the shadows. Soon, we will tell the galaxy who we really are. At the bottom of the file was a frequency code. Yuri stared at it for a long moment. Then she copied it into her communication device and pressed connect. Static filled her ears. Then, slowly, the static became voices. Millions of voices, speaking in hundreds of languages. Some spoke Korean. Some spoke English. Some spoke tongues that Yuri did not recognize. But all of them said the same thing. We remember. We endure. We are still here. Yuri began to cry. She was not alone. She had never been alone. Her grandmother had been part of something bigger than she had ever imagined. And now Yuri was part of it too. She listened to the voices for a long time. They told stories of Earth. They shared memories of blue skies and green forests and wide oceans. They talked about their families and their hopes and their dreams. And they talked about the future. The Hidden Ones will not hide forever, one voice said. It was an old woman, speaking in slow, careful Korean. One day, the galaxy will know our name. One day, they will see what we have become. And on that day, They will understand that humanity cannot be destroyed. Yuri wiped her tears and smiled. She had found her answer. Her grandmother had not been keeping a meaningless secret. She had been keeping the most important secret in the galaxy. The dead language was alive. The extinct species had survived. And Yuri was one of them. She saved the files and closed the connection. Tomorrow she would go back to class. She would listen to Professor Velith talk about the strange dead humans. And she would smile, knowing the truth that no one else knew, but she would not keep it secret forever. The time was coming. The hidden ones were ready, and Yuri would be there when humanity stepped back into the light. The weeks passed quickly. Yuri went to class every day. She sat in the back row and listened to Professor Velith explain the dead language of Earth. But now, everything was different. Before, Yuri had been quiet. She had listened but never spoken. She had been afraid to draw attention to herself. But the secret she had discovered had changed her. She was no longer afraid. She began to ask questions. "Professor," she said one day, "you pronounced that word incorrectly. The emphasis should be on the second syllable, not the first." Velith looked surprised. Her forearms stopped moving. Her large eyes focused on Yuri with sudden interest. "How do you know that?" Yuri smiled. "I read it in an old recording. The humans spoke with a certain rhythm. Their words rose and fell like music." Velith studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You are correct. I have been approximating the sounds. No one alive knows exactly how the humans spoke. But Yuri knew. She knew because her grandmother had spoken to her in that exact rhythm. She knew because the language of Earth still lived in her blood and bones. The other students began to notice Yuri too. She corrected translations. She explained grammar rules that the textbooks got wrong. She recited phrases from memory that should have been lost forever. Tiggies approached her after class one day. His eye stalks bobbed with curiosity. "How do you know so much about the humans? You speak their language like you grew up with it." Yuri felt a moment of fear. She had been too careless. She had let her excitement show. But then she remembered her grandmother's words. "The time is coming. The hidden ones will not hide forever." "My family has an interest in old languages," she said simply. "We collected recordings and books. I learned from them." Tiggies accepted this explanation. But Velith did not. The professor asked Yuri to stay after class the next week. The room was empty. The holographic display was dark. Velith stood very still, her forearms folded across her chest. "Who are you?" Velith asked. Her voice was quiet but serious. "And do not lie to me. I have been studying Terran languages for 40 years. No one speaks them the way you do. No one understands them so deeply. Not unless they learned from someone who actually spoke them." Yuri took a deep breath. Her heart was beating fast. This was the moment she had been waiting for. The moment her grandmother had prepared her for. "Can I trust you?" Yuri asked. Velith tilted her head. "I am a scholar. I seek truth. Whatever you tell me will be treated with respect." Yuri nodded. Then she began to speak. She told Velith about her grandmother. She told her about the songs and the secret language. She told her about the files she had found in the restricted archive. She told her about Project Diaspora and the hidden ones. And she told her the truth that no one in the galaxy knew. "The humans did not die," Yuri said. "They scattered. They hid among other species. They changed their bodies and their names. But they kept their languages alive, passed down from parent to child in whispers and songs." Velith was silent for a long time. Her blue skin had turned pale. Her eyes were very wide. "That is impossible," she finally said. "The records are clear. Earth was destroyed. All humans perished. The records are wrong, Yuri said. Or perhaps they were made wrong on purpose. The humans wanted to disappear. They wanted the galaxy to forget about them. And for 4,000 years, it worked. Velith sat down heavily. Her forearms hung loose at her sides. But why? Why hide for so long? Why not reveal yourselves? Yuri thought about this question. She had asked herself the same thing many times. Because the galaxy let us die, she said finally. The council looked at us and decided we were not worth saving. We were too young, too primitive, too weak. She paused and looked directly at Velith. But we proved them wrong. We survived without their help. And for 4,000 years, we have lived among them. We have contributed to their science and their art and their medicine. We have helped build this galaxy into what it is today. Velith shook her head slowly. I have colleagues, friends, students. Are you saying that some of them might be human? Yes, Yuri said. The hidden ones are everywhere. We are your doctors and your teachers, your engineers and your diplomats, your neighbors and your friends. You just never knew it. The professor was quiet again. Yuri could see that she was struggling to accept what she had heard. It was a lot to take in. The entire history of the galaxy had just been rewritten in a single conversation. What happens now? Velith asked. Now the hiding ends, Yuri said. The elders have decided that the time has come. We have waited long enough. We have proven ourselves worthy of our place in the galaxy. Soon, the hidden ones will reveal themselves to everyone. Velith looked at her student with new eyes. She had thought she was teaching a quiet, ordinary girl. Instead, she had been teaching a member of a species that everyone believed was extinct. Your class, Yuri continued. 23 students from 12 different worlds, all learning our language, all starting to understand how we thought and felt and dreamed. That is why the elders chose this moment. Because you are already teaching the galaxy to remember us. Velith stood up. Her forearms were trembling, but her voice was steady when she spoke. Then I will help you, she said. I have spent my life studying dead languages, but I would rather help a living one. Yuri smiled and held out her hand. It was a human gesture, one that her grandmother had taught her. Velith looked at it for a moment, then reached out with one of her own hands and took it. Thank you, Yuri said. For listening, for believing, for understanding. Thank you, Velith replied, for trusting me with this truth. Outside, the stars shone cold and bright. Somewhere out there, millions of hidden ones were preparing to step into the light. And Yuri, a simple student in a simple classroom, had just taken the first step toward bringing them home. The news spread faster than light itself thought it began as a rumor. Someone had heard that humans still existed. Someone else claimed to have seen the secret files. Within days, the rumor became a storm. Within weeks, it reached the highest levels of government. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from every species in the hegemony. They sat in rows that rose toward the ceiling like steps on a giant staircase. Hundreds of different faces looked down at the central platform, where the council leaders stood in worried silence. Councilor Marthax was the first to speak. He was large and loud, with thick green scales and a voice that echoed off the walls. We must act immediately, he said. If the rumors are true, we have been infiltrated. Humans walk among us, pretending to be something they are not. This is a threat to our security, a threat to our way of life. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Fear was spreading. The same species that had been dismissed as primitive and weak was suddenly everywhere. In their homes, in their schools, in their governments. We should round them up, another counselor suggested. Find them all and place them under watch. We cannot allow unknown elements to move freely in our society. And how do you plan to identify them? Asked a calm voice from the upper rows. Everyone turned to look. The speaker was an old man with gray skin and tired eyes. His name was Counselor Bren, and he had served the council for 60 years. He was respected by all, trusted by most, and feared by none. The humans have hidden for 4,000 years, Bren continued. They have changed their bodies, changed their names, changed everything about themselves to blend in with us. Do you think you can simply look at someone and know if they are human? Marthax growled. Then we will test everyone. Blood tests, gene scans, whatever it takes. You would test every citizen in the galaxy? Bren asked. Every man, woman, and child? That would take centuries. And it would destroy the trust that holds our society together. The chamber erupted in argument. Counselors shouted at each other. Some demanded action. Others called for calm. The noise grew louder and louder until it was almost impossible to hear anything at all. Then Bren raised his hand. The gesture was simple, but it carried weight. The old counselor had never asked for silence before. He had always let others speak first. But now he stood straight and tall, and his eyes were filled with something that no one had seen in them before. I have something to confess, he said. The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to him. I have served this council for 60 years, Bren continued. His voice was steady. I have worked for peace. I have fought for justice. I have tried to make our galaxy a better place. For all who live in it. He paused and took a deep breath. My great-great-grandmother was born on a world called Earth. She was born in a city called Bizon. When she was young, she escaped the destruction of her planet on a small ship with 200 other survivors. They flew for years until they found a quiet moon where they could hide. And there, they raised families and taught their children to be part of this galaxy. Gasps filled the chamber. Marthax stared with his mouth open. Other counselors rose from their seats in shock. I have blue blood, Bren said. I have 3 hearts. My skin is gray and my bones are dense. By every physical measure, I am not human. But inside me, there is a part that remembers Earth, a part that knows the songs and stories of my ancestors, a part that has watched this galaxy for generations, hoping for the day when I could speak the truth. He spread his arms wide. I am human, and I am not alone. As he spoke, others began to stand. A young woman in the diplomatic corps, an old scientist from the Academy of Sciences, a military officer in full uniform. One by one, they rose from their seats and declared themselves. I am human. I am human. I am human. The words echoed through the chamber. Dozens of voices. Then hundreds. From every species, from every world, from every level of society, the hidden ones revealed themselves. Marthax looked around in horror. This is madness. You cannot all be human. Look at yourselves. You are Kavani. You are Velen. You are Thrix. We are all of those things, Bren replied gently. We became them over 4,000 years. We married into your families. We raised children with your people. We are not just human anymore. We are part of everyone. The chamber was quiet. The fear that had filled it moments ago was fading. In its place, something new was growing. Something that felt almost like wonder. A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room. A young man appeared on the screen. He had dark hair and kind eyes. His name was Dohan, and he spoke for the hidden ones across the galaxy. We did not come here to conquer, Dohan said. We came here to survive. 4,000 years ago, your ancestors decided we were not worth saving. They left us to die. But we did not die. We adapted. We learned. We grew. He paused and looked directly into the camera. "We have been your engineers and your healers, your teachers and your friends. We have given everything we have to this galaxy, and we have asked for nothing in return except the chance to live." Doan straightened his shoulders. "Now we ask for something more. We ask for recognition, not as primitives who should have died, not as refugees who need your charity, but as equals who earned their place among the stars through 4,000 years of quiet service." The chamber was silent. Everyone was watching. Everyone was listening. "The choice is yours," Doan said. "You can reject us. You can hunt us. You can try to tear us out of the society we helped build. Or you can accept us. You can welcome us. You can let us stand in the light as your brothers and sisters." He smiled. It was a small smile, but it was warm and genuine. "We remember what you did to us. We remember the fear and the loneliness and the pain. But we choose not to hate. We choose to forgive. And we hope that you will choose to accept." The screen went dark. Counselor Bren looked out at his fellow counselors. The fear was gone from most of their faces now. In its place was something else. Something that looked almost like shame. 4,000 years ago, we failed them, Bren said softly. We let them die. But they did not hold that against us. They joined us anyway. They helped us anyway. They loved us anyway. He sat down heavily in his chair. Perhaps it is time we started to deserve that love. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. Then another. Then another. The sound grew and grew until it filled the entire room. It was not a perfect ending. There would be hard days ahead. Not everyone would accept the truth. But in that moment, standing in the great chamber with tears on his face, Counselor Bren knew that humanity had finally come home. 50 years had passed since the day the Hidden Ones revealed themselves to the galaxy. The world had changed. Everything had changed. The fear and anger of those first days had slowly given way to understanding. Then acceptance. Then something that looked almost like family. The Galactic Linguistics Institute had been renamed. It was now called the Terran Galactic Cultural Exchange, and it stood as a symbol of how far the galaxy had come. Students from every world came here to learn about humanity. And Professor Veleth, now very old and very tired, still stood at the front of the classroom. Her blue skin had grown pale with age. Her movements were slow and careful, but her eyes were still bright, and her voice was still clear. "Good morning, class," she said. "Today, we continue our study of Earth languages." The classroom was full. 30 students from different species sat in neat rows, their eyes fixed on the professor. In the front row, a young woman watched with special attention. Her name was Hannah, and she had dark hair and warm brown eyes. She looked almost exactly like her grandmother had looked 50 years ago, when she had first walked into this room. Yuri was gone now. She had passed away the previous year, surrounded by her family and her friends. But her memory lived on in the stories she had told and the songs she had sung. "Korean," Veleth continued. "That is our focus today. It was one of the root languages of Earth, a beautiful tongue full of music and meaning." She touched her panel, and symbols appeared in the air. They were different from the sharp angles of Terran Standard. These shapes were softer, rounder. They flowed like water across the display. Korean survived because grandmothers taught it to their grandchildren, Veleth said. In secret, in whispers, in songs sung late at night when no one else was listening. For 4,000 years, ordinary people kept this language alive through nothing but love and memory. Hannah felt tears prick at her eyes. Her grandmother had been one of those people. She remembered sitting on Yuri's lap as a child, listening to words she did not understand but loved anyway. She remembered the warmth of her grandmother's voice and the gentleness of her hands. The humans have a phrase, Velith continued. They say that words outlive the speakers. What they meant is that a language carries the soul of its people. Even when the people are gone, their words remain. And through those words, they continue to live. She looked around the classroom at her students. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had skin that changed color with their mood. But all of them were listening with the same wonder in their eyes. 50 years ago, I thought I was teaching a dead language, Velith said. I thought I was studying the remains of an extinct species. I was wrong. The language was alive. The species was alive. They had just been hiding, waiting for the right moment to come back into the light. She smiled. It was a rare expression for her. She had always been serious and formal. But age had softened her, and the years had taught her to appreciate the strange beauty of life. I was lucky, she said. I had a student who trusted me with the truth. A young woman named Yuri, who changed everything I thought I knew about the galaxy. Hannah straightened in her seat. She had heard this story many times, but she never grew tired of it. Her grandmother had been brave. Her grandmother had been strong. Her grandmother had helped bring humanity back from the shadows. Velith pulled up a new phrase on the display. The Korean characters glowed soft white against the darkness. This is a simple sentence, Velith said, but it carries a lot of meaning. Would anyone like to try reading it? Hannah raised her hand. Velith nodded at her. Tomorrow is a new day, Hannah said. She pronounced each syllable carefully, the way her grandmother had taught her. It means that no matter how hard things are today, there is always hope for the future. Velith nodded. Exactly right. The humans use this phrase often. They said it to each other when times were difficult, when they were scared, when they did not know if they would survive. She looked directly at Hannah. Your grandmother used to say those words to me, Velith said softly. Every time I felt hopeless. Every time I wondered if we could ever change things. She would smile and say, tomorrow is a new day. Hannah felt the tears spill down her cheeks. She did not try to hide them. They were good tears. Proud tears. The humans taught us something important, Velith continued. They taught us that survival is not just about living. It is about remembering. It is about passing on what matters. They hid for 4,000 years, but their language, their soul, never died. She gestured at the classroom around her. Now look at you. 30 students from 30 different worlds, all learning to speak Korean. All learning to think the way the humans thought. All carrying a piece of their culture forward into the future. She paused and took a deep breath. That is the true inheritance of humanity. Not their technology. Not their weapons. Not their ships or their buildings. Their inheritance is their words. Their stories. Their dreams. The class ended. Students gathered their things and began to leave. But Hannah stayed behind. She walked slowly to the front of the room, where Velith was shutting down her display. Professor, Hannah said. Thank you. Velith looked at her with gentle eyes. For what? For keeping my grandmother's memory alive. For teaching her language to the galaxy. For never forgetting who we are. Velith reached out and took Hannah's hand. Her grip was weak, but her touch was warm. Your grandmother changed my life, Velith said. She showed me that the galaxy is full of surprises. That even dead things can come back to life. That hope is never truly lost, she smiled. I am old now. I will not teach many more classes. But I know that when I am gone, you will continue the work. You and all the others who carry the language in your hearts. Hannah nodded. The tears were flowing freely now, but she was smiling too. I will, she promised. I will teach it to my children, and they will teach it to theirs. Just like my grandmother taught me. Velith nodded. That is all any of us can do. Pass on what we know. Keep the words alive. And trust that tomorrow will be a new day. Outside, the sun was setting over the institute. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple. Students walked across the courtyard, talking and laughing in a dozen different languages. Among those languages, if you listened carefully, you could hear Korean, and Spanish, and Arabic, and English, and all the other tongues of earth. Alive and thriving after 4,000 years of silence, Hannah walked out into the sunset and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, her grandmother was watching. She was sure of it, and in her heart, she heard her grandmother's voice one last time. Language lives forever, little one. And so do we. Hannah smiled and walked forward into the light. The end.